Well, greetings all. My name is Brian. Welcome. I've been on the road for, going on 10 years now, living kind of a nomadic mobile lifestyle, working different seasonal jobs as I travel around the country. So one of the new jobs I did recently was work as a campground host. I hosted at a campground in the mountains of Colorado. It was a really beautiful area and turned out to be a really great experience. So I had made a series of videos while I was at that job. I'll put a little playlist together in case you haven't seen those in the video description. You can click on that and it'll have the collection of videos I made. I tried to document the experience as best as possible, and I did promise at the end of the season I would make this video eventually telling you all how you could get a job as a campground host as well. I do just want to have a little disclaimer here. I am not affiliated with any of these companies, although I have worked for one that I will mention. I am not currently employed by them, and all this is just information based on my experience and all of my opinions on the whole thing. So just take note of that, something to think about. So I'm going to try to keep this as short, as concise as possible. I'm going to have this divided up into 3 sections here. So first off, I'm going to get right to the information that's going to help you get one of these jobs for yourself. That will include a few websites to get you going and how to go about getting on their list and checking out the available job positions, and also one other mention of how you can do this in person as well. So right off the bat, I'm just going to mention a few of the big concessionaires out there, and I should mention that campground hosting works in a few different ways. Of course, there are like state parks, national parks that have campgrounds, and usually a lot of those you're working directly for those national parks and the U.S. Forest Service, but oftentimes they will have hired out a private concessionaire, and that's the experience I have. I worked for one of these concessionaires. The name of it was American Land and Leisure. There's quite a few big ones out there. Another one is Vista. California Land Management is another big one. So I'll leave links to those in the video description, so that'll get you going. And then from there, there's an employment tab. They have job listings where you can look at all the available positions. They have little descriptions on each position, and then you can move on and apply and get an interview from there. So that'll get you going. Another really good way to get one of these jobs is if that you're in the Southwest in the winter time, specifically Quartzsite, Arizona in the month of January. They have a big RV show there, the Big Tent RV show, and there's a couple of concessionaires that have booths there where you can go and meet with people that represent the company and look into the jobs and actually apply and get hired right on the spot. And that's a really good way to do it because you're person to person. And actually, American Land and Leisure, the company I worked for, has a booth there. And the representatives there are actually my managers that I worked for last summer. Super great people. So it's a great place to in person ask questions, get information about the campgrounds you're interested in, and then of course get a job right on the spot. So between doing that or going to their websites and applying online, it's pretty easy to get one of these jobs if you're really interested. You just got to put the time in to look for a campground that will suit you. I will mention a couple of other websites that I've seen. One popped up recently that I haven't seen before. It's called Camper Jobs. Camper spelled with a K, K-A-M-P-E-R, jobs. I'll leave a link for that as well. And then another one I've been on her list for a while, Workers on Wheels. She posts a little job section of available jobs that you can look into. So that's pretty helpful as well. So I'll leave a link for that also. So again, if you're going the route where you're applying online and looking at these jobs on these websites, it's generally the same across the big companies that I've checked into, where there's a job listing section where it's just one after another, different campground positions, usually host positions, but they will also have like maintenance and other positions involved at these campgrounds. But if you're interested in just the campground host thing, you can look at these positions. It's usually a listing, and in the details it'll have the number of campsites in the campground, so you can get an idea for how big it is, what kind of campground it is, if it's full hookup or primitive, and how many hours are involved, a brief description of the task involved, and then the pay and rate and all that. So you can get a good idea of what you're getting yourself into. The next step would be to go ahead and apply for one of these. It's a basic application thing online. You can post your resume to it as well, and then you move on to a phone interview. And generally from there, you decide if you want the job or not, and you can accept or decline. Okay, so for this next section, I'm going to get into some personal advice that I would give for someone that's going to be having a phone interview for one of these campground host positions. And this is all stuff based on, as a nomad that's been on the road for almost 10 years, I meet a lot of people that have done these jobs that still continue to be campground hosts year after year. So I've gathered a lot of personal opinions and information from not only my experience, but others that I've met experience. So one of the big reasons why so many people are dissatisfied with these campground host jobs is when they show up, it's not what they thought it was going to be, either based on the phone interview or the description on the website. It turns out to either be way more work than they want to do, or it's not enough work and they're not getting paid enough. Those two things. It's just not what they thought it would be. So my personal advice for when you get to this phone interview, or if you're in person as well, would just be ask as many questions as you can. Really get into the specifics. Try to turn the tables. Instead of them interviewing you, it really should be about you interviewing them and the job. Find out as much as you can about the campground and what is going to be expected of you physically, how much time is really going to be required for you to accomplish what is expected of you. And also, of course, you are applying for a campground host position. This is a people person position. You are a host. You're expected to interact with people, be friendly and inviting and accepting, and be able to deal with conflict well and not hold a grudge with people. You really have to be just kind of a happy, social type person. That's the best fit for this. I'm kind of right on the fence. I'm typically a happy-go-lucky person, but I'm not the most social, so it was challenging for me on that end of it. I really excelled in the physical labor part because that's more my thing. So on my end, the challenging stuff was just dealing with the people. It went well, but it was a challenge. But I know for a lot of people, it's the physical labor part that's the biggest challenge. They have no problem dealing with the people. It's just the physical labor stuff that's expected of them. And that's generally cleaning bathrooms and then light landscape work. And light landscape work, meaning, mowing grass or doing weed whacking type stuff, trimming shrubs and that can be on different levels. And a lot of times when people hear that in the job description or in the interview, in their head, they're thinking light yard work. Yes, I can do that. When they get there, it's not light yard work. It's more work than they had anticipated, and they end up not being able to accomplish that. So that's something that you should be really inquisitive about when you're in your interview, about how hard is this, landscape work going to be? How many toilets are there in the campground? Are you going to be provided a golf cart to get around this campground, or a work truck? Are you going to be expected to do it on foot? All the tools involved to accomplish the task, are those going to be provided? All stuff that you should really be clear with so there's no surprises when you show up at the job. Of course, pay is a big thing. How many hours are you really going to get paid for, and what is that hourly wage going to be? That's, very basic but simple. That should be really clear and set in stone before you show up for the job. Also, accommodations are a big thing. The campsite that's provided for you, is that fully included? Are they going to be taking money out of your paycheck for that accommodation? What kind of campsite is it? Are you going to have full hookups, electricity, water, sewer? And if not, are you going to be provided a generator and drinking water, a water tank? That's all stuff that should be really clear before you show up. So basically just know what you're getting yourself into. That's really the main thing here. As far as the requirements for most of these positions, it does come down to the physical work that's expected of you. And that's generally in that job description on the website. And it is a very general kind of, you need to be able to lift 50 pounds. But, the specifics are what's really important when you show up there. So if you're required to do at your campground mowing, you need to mow grass and get the mower around. Are you able to lift that mower up into your truck? Are you going to be provided with a truck that has ramps so you can roll that mower up in there? Are you going to be physically able to do that yourself? Not just the mowing, but get the mower around the campground. Those type of things. There's little things that you kind of don't think about until you get there and like, oh wow, this is more work than I really thought it was going to be. So again, I'm really trying to keep this short, so I'm just going to move on to getting back to my experience last summer as a campground host. I really enjoyed it. All of the work that was involved to maintain the campground was exactly what I was expected it to be. I ended up taking on some extra work at some other campgrounds to make a little extra cash. That was on top of just my responsibilities at my campground. And what was involved at my campground was really pretty simple. It was a 10-site campground. I met a lot of really great people. Of course, I do the YouTube thing, so I had a lot of subscribers show up and camp out and got to meet them and chat with them, so that was cool. So it can be a really good experience in that sense, just meeting a lot of neat people, and you're the host. You're the person there, and you can be involved or as little involved with campers as you want to be, just kind of feeling it out. Some people you can tell want to be left alone, and that's up to you. And yeah, it was just, again, an overall good experience. The pay was, what was expected. So it turned out to be something that I may do again in the future. I'm not sure. But yeah, it was a good deal for me, and it could be a good deal for you. I just, again, would get back to know exactly what you're getting yourself into and ask as many questions as you can before you accept this job and drive many miles to it. And that's often the case. So anyway, I wanted to keep this short. Really, it was about just the information, the few website links that I left for you, getting you going on looking for the jobs and hopefully applying for some. And now is the time to get on it, around January, applying for the upcoming season. Oftentimes the most popular seasons are the end of May, going all through the summer into the end of September, or even through the month of October into November sometimes, depending on the location. So again, touching on the accommodations, the campsite that is provided for you, you need to think about where this campground is located, what the weather is going to be like. If it's going to be somewhere where it's hot in the summer, are you going to have shade, or is your campsite going to be fully exposed in the sun? Again, are you going to have electricity to run AC if you need it? That type of stuff should all be in the clear and understood before you accept the position. But overall, I do feel like campground hosting is a good job for the traveler, the nomad that is looking for seasonally somewhere to kind of settle down, and you do like being around people. You can make a little bit of money, and again, you have a place to just settle down for a full season. You maybe have some accommodations that you usually don't have, with electricity and bathrooms and that. So it can be a really good gig for the right person if it's a right fit for you. So I hope this information was helpful, and we'll see you guys soon in the next video. Take care.